Hey guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about beginner lizards. So lizards are equally as popular, if not more popular, than snakes in the reptile or herpetological, community or society, whatever it may have you. And today I'm going to talk about 5 choices that I think are really good for a beginner. So these are things that talk about that mostly are in reference to their basic care, their needs, diet, price, availability, all of that. So the first thing I'm going to say is bearded dragons aren't going to be on this list of 5 for beginner reptiles. I don't think that they're not a bad choice. I just think for this particular list of 5 choices of being beginner, they don't really involve. Their diets are a little bit more complex. Their heating and requirements and UVB and all that other stuff makes them to be more that I think that they're not a bad choice, but they're not going to make my personal top 5. I have bearded dragons. I think they're good. But anyway, we're going to move right along into what I think are 5 good choices. So the first thing I'm going to say about this list is that none of them require UVB lighting, which is why I think a lot of them are good beginner choices. And I'm going to start this list, if you guys haven't figured that out yet, is with the Crested Gecko. This list isn't going to be in any particular order, but in my opinion, this is probably the best choice for a beginner reptile for a number of reasons. Number 1, they are a great size. This is a full-grown adult female. They don't get much bigger than this. As you can see, they're very personable. They're calm a lot of the time. They're widely available. They come in a wide variety of colors and patterns. There's not too many actual legitimate morphs, although there are a couple kind of being figured out right now. They're mostly just kind of what the parents are, maybe. They're pretty line bred. They're polygenic. Anyway, but this is a nice little kind of brown girl. She fires up really orange and kind of pinkish when she's up. And when I say fired up, and she just peed on me, they kind of they have cool and light phases depending on hormones, the time of the year, the time of the day, how they're feeling, and all of that. She's kind of fired down right now, so she's kind of darker. These guys are great beginner pets because, number 1, like I said before, they don't need UVB lighting. They don't need a lot of heat. They are good around room temps, so in the mid to high 70s to low 80s. So room temp, like most of the time, most people keep their houses in the 70s. That is perfect for Crested Geckos. Any hotter than that, then, you get into some trouble. So like leopard geckos and stuff, they need to be kept a lot warmer than these guys. So these guys are great beginner ones. They're really fun. They're really personable. They have those cute little eyelashy faces. That's why also sometimes called the eyelash geckos. They don't need a whole lot of room. Their diets are super easy. They have a couple different commercial type foods. Pangea is one that we feed here, that it's like this little fruit mix. All you do is just add water to it and then replace it every day. And then if you want, you can supplement with bugs, crickets, mealworms, all of that. I think these guys are great. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that, just my idea that these guys are good beginner reptiles for their care, the price, and everything about them. Next, we have an equal contender for what I think is the best beginner reptile, and that is the Leopard Gecko. This is one of our 2 leopard geckos. She is a rescue. She came in with pretty bad MBD, and although, as you can see with that nice fat tail, she is a lot better off. MBD never goes away, so if you see her move, it's not going to look super great when she moves around. So, leopard geckos, arguably the best choice for, beginner reptiles. They stay small. She's an adult. They can get a little bit bigger than this, obviously a little more heavy-bodied because she's had some issues in the past. But they don't need a lot of space. A 20-gallon tank, I think, is good for, a single adult. You just have to remember they need to stay warm. So, a nice high 90s hot spot, low 80s for kind of the cool. Make sure you give them enough room to move around. Give them a couple caves. Make sure that, you still put humidity in there. And I don't think I really touched on it too well with the Crested Gecko. But, they need really high humidity, above 60%, so, kind of daily spraying. These guys, not so much. I don't think it's a bad thing to put, water dishes in all of your reptile enclosures, but they usually don't actually drink standing water. Most of the time they get a lot of their liquid from, the prey that they eat, the insects, but, misting them a little bit and in their humid hides is a good idea because they still need humidity. So, you give them a rock clave on the hot side, and then on the cooler side, You give them like a little wood hide or something stuck with sphagnum moss, so that way that helps them stay hydrated and help with shedding as well. These guys are really, really good choices for beginner pets. They come in, you know, for really cheap, under $30, $40 is a good beginner one. And then you get into like the thousands of dollars for people who, you know, really love these guys and they're more interested in the morphs and things like that. But the care for them stays the same regardless of what color it is. And that goes the same with the Crested Geckos that we had on before and any of the lizards that we have on this list right now. So, Leopard Geckos, Crested Geckos, best choices. I love these little Leopard Geckos. We used to breed them here. But anyway, moving on down the road to the next choice, who looks a little similar to this little one. So, the African fat-tailed gecko. There's a lot of confusion when it comes to these guys and the Leopard Geckos for pretty obvious reasons. They look very, very similar. So these guys, as their name states, are from Africa, but their, you know, their habitats, ecosystems, how they've evolved is basically identical to that of the Leopard Geckos, which are more in that kind of Middle Eastern part of Asia. These guys, really the only difference in their care is that they need to be a little bit cooler, not a whole lot, you know, still, you know, in the good 90s for a hot spot, but they need a lot more humidity, not a lot more, but they need more humidity. So make sure that, you know, a good 20-gallon tank is good for these guys, just like a Leopard Gecko. And I would just give them a couple extra humid hides. Make sure, you know, you put them with sphagnum moss or coconut or whatever else inside of those hides on whatever substrate that you choose. I would probably stay away from sand for these guys or Leopard Geckos. They don't get quite as big as Leopard Geckos. As you can see, this is a full-grown adult, so they don't get nearly as big. They do have morphs and patterns like albinos and things like that. This is a stripe. They don't all have this vertical stripe down their backs. But they do have some interesting ones. There's ones that kind of look like an Oreo and blizzards and stuff like that. They're just really cool, neat little guys. I think they're pretty underrated, but because their care is very similar to that of a Leopard Gecko, I think they're a pretty good choice. They're not, they seem to be a little bit more handleable than Leopard Geckos. Not to say that Leopard Geckos aren't. They just kind of seem to get more used to being handled a little bit quicker than Leopard Geckos. Because, you know, when you get a baby lizard, automatically it thinks that, you know, whatever this big thing is trying to eat them. But eventually they do get used to people, and they seem to do a little bit faster job of getting used to people than that of Leopard Geckos. So if you're thinking that Crested Geckos are kind of cool and you want something a little different, maybe a little bit bigger, then Gargoyle Geckos I think are a good way to, you know, do something a little bit different. So these guys are also from New Caledonia, and he's being super jumpy right now. Sorry, fly. And so we're going to see what he's doing. He's our juvenile Gargoyle Gecko. They do get a little bit bigger than Crested Geckos at full grown. Their color is a little bit more different. They're more naturally able to kind of blend in. So you can see that really modeled, yep, there he goes. That really modeled pattern is meant to blend in with tree bark a little bit more than Crested Geckos. But they're starting to come out with these crazy, crazy lines of just super bright orange or red things. And they have really fun names, like there's a Dracula line and a Deadpool line and stuff. But their care is essentially identical to that of a Crested Gecko. Like I said, they do get a little bit bigger. Their prices can vary just like the Crested Geckos. These guys are a little bit more pricey. Sorry, these flies are, I don't know what's going on. We've had the door open, maybe flies are getting in a little bit. They are adorable. They're really cute. They're very handleable, as you can see. This is our pet. You can see that there's kind of a little bit of a thing going on with his back. It's a little bit of a spinal deformity. So because it's something like that, the breeder that we got him from, as well as us as well, and really probably anyone who's, you know, worth their, you know, worth your time is probably going to say the same thing, where it's not really worth it to breed. Not only because it might endanger the life of the animal, but it could potentially be something to be passed along. So he's just our pet. These guys are super cool. Like I said, they're from New Caledonia, just like the Crested Geckos. So room temps, keep it humid, give them places to hide. They're good. They can climb on stuff. And they're just adorable little dudes. And last but not least on our list of 5, like I said, it's not a top 5 or what's the best, what's the worst. They're all good choices, is the Chinese cave gecko. We did a video about them a little while ago, these guys are really good choices. So they look very similar to that of the fat tails and the leopard geckos. They stay even smaller, you know, without their tail, probably about 1.5 to 2 inches tops. They come from southern China, some of the islands around there. I don't think I got the facts on that quite right when I actually did that previous video. But they come from southern China. They occupy caves and stuff. They stay pretty small. And from the area that they're in, it's very similar conditions to that of, you know, Thailand and also New Caledonia and Indonesia and stuff, to where they don't need to be quite as hot. In fact, high temperatures, really stuff anything over like 80, 85, yeah, we'll say 85 is very detrimental to their health. So they need to stay cool. So keeping them conditions like you would like a Crested Gecko or a Gargoyle Gecko is optimal for them. They are terrestrial, just like the leopard geckos and stuff. So you want to keep them in a more horizontal tank than a vertical tank like you would the Cresteds or the Gargoyles. They're more vertical arboreal lizards. These guys are terrestrial. So keeping them in a 10, 20 gallon tank is perfectly fine. They do like to hide a lot, so they're not quite as, you know, handleable, really, sorry, weird noise. I think the turtles are acting up. You know, they're not quite as handleable and personable as the others, but they do look really cool. You know, it's that same basic little gecko shape, but they're dark purpley gray with big, bright red eyes and kind of like gold, like little crescent moons along their back and heads, which looks really cool. The reason why I wouldn't say they're the best is because, number one, they're not as widely available, although they're fairly inexpensive. But like I said before, they're not quite as handleable as really any of the other lizards on the list, but their care is very easy. You know, feeding them the very, you know, cricket insect diet of roaches and mealworms like you would the fat tails or the leopard geckos, just the same. Only difference is they like to hide, so you're not going to see them much. You're not going to interact with them quite as much. But their care is easy. They still look really good. They're really cool little lizards, and so that's why I think they make a good addition to this little, you know, top 5, I guess you could say, or 5 what I think are the best choices. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. You know, like I said before, this isn't, you know, the best, the only 5 good beginner ones. These are just choices that I think make really good choices. There are a lot of species of lizards out there, widely available and a little bit harder to find, that their care is very easy. They could make a good beginner reptile. These are just 5 choices that I picked. Number 1, because I have them. Number 2, I've worked with them. And number 3, that I do think that they do make good choices. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, could take something away from it. If you guys have any questions, anything like that, let me know down in the comments. Hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, whatever you could like to do. Hopefully you guys do take something away from these videos. I do like talking about reptiles all day long, so I'll just keep making them. If you can, please like and subscribe. It's really helpful. I'm finally starting to reach out and talk to people, so really thank you guys for you guys who are watching these videos and taking away from something with these. Hope you guys are having a good day, and I'll catch you next time.